What happens when a software developer decides to become a stand-up comedian? He uses AI, of course, to quantify and optimize his performances, enabling him to land a massive 20-day tour of the US less than a year after his first ever performance. Welcome to episode number 945 of the Super Data Science Podcast. I'm your host, John Krohn. I'm joined today by Joel Beasley, a software engineer who became a CTO, who then started podcasting, turning the Modern CTO podcast from a hobby into a big profitable show. Now he's used AI to turn his new stand-up comedy career into gold as well. Hear about that, as well as the top pieces of tech leadership advice he's ever received in today's episode. This episode of Super Data Science is made possible by Anthropic, Dell, Intel, Fabi, and Gurobi. Joel Beasley, welcome to the Super Data Science Podcast. How you doing?
Dude, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
I know you're doing great because I heard big news from you just before we started recording. So I've been on your show, the Modern CTO podcast, a couple of times. And the last time I was on there, I don't know, it was about 2 months ago that we recorded. The episode came out about a month ago at the time of recording. I'll try to find that episode to put it in the show notes if people want to listen to me on someone else's show. Joel is really funny. Actually, that's kind of the point that I'm getting to. I was going to say you should listen to the podcast episode because Joel is really funny and he brings out the best in me. I really have a lot of laughs on the show as well. And so it's just kind of a nice thing to listen to, unlike the drudgery that I usually put my audience through on this show. And yeah, to wit, when we were recording, you had been getting going with comedy for a while. I hadn't caught up with you over voice in over a year, and you were saying that you were getting going with comedy. You're using AI tools in a lot of ways with that. So so you're monitoring your laughs per minute, for example, and you get laugh per minute benchmarks from some of your favorite comedians. So maybe you can tell us a bit about that in a second. But the first thing that I want to get to is that since I last spoke to you, a crazy thing has happened in your life. Tell us about it, Joel.
Yeah. So I started comedy about 10 months ago, and through a series of relationships and connections, I met Jeff Allen, who's the largest comedian on Dry Bar. He's got 7 specials, over 1 billion views. He lives in the same city I do. We got together, and then he invited me to audition to be on his tour. So he gave me 3 sold out theater dates in Georgia. And that was the first week of October. And I did those 3 dates. He said he loved my comedy. He thought I was great. And then he invited me on the rest of his tour. So now I've got 20 dates between now and February.
It's fantastic. So I'm going to have the tour dates in the show notes as well. So actually, anybody can do this. It's a very easy URL, joelcomedy.com. How many millions did that cost about?
It was lovable, $25 a month.
It's amazing that was free.
Yeah.
That was available. And so, so you can see all the tour dates. Some of them will actually some of those 20 dates will have passed by the time this episode is live, but many of them, late November dates, December dates, January, February, they're all in the US, kind of East Coast in the US, but all over. So pretty exciting. I'm going to do my best to check out at least one of these shows as well. So congrats, Joel. Amazing.
Yeah. And if you do come to a show, hang around after and come say hi to me, because that's my favorite part.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so tell us about the AI tools that you use to support your comedy development.
Yeah. So I started in December of this past year. So it's been about 10, 11 months or so. And I realized really quickly, I was like, what's the difference between good comedians and great comedians? And why are some people more popular than others? And comedy is very subjective, right? Like what's funny to me and my group may not be funny to you and your group. So I was looking for the common data point that would, transcend groups. And I found that common data point was laughs per minute. And so you can look at these comedians, the Nate Bargatze's, the John Chris, and you can do it old school and just watch their special and jot down the laughs per minute, or you can run it through Gemini and have it calculate the laughs per minute. And so I found that 4 to 5 laughs per minute is the standard for a professional full-time comedian. And so I said, okay, all I have to do is write material that elicits 4 to 5 laughs per minute, and I will be on par with a professional comedian. And I've pretty much done that. So what I do is I record every set, I run it through the AI after the set. Nothing special, just Gemini prompt. Why Gemini? It was the only one through the browser UI that would consume video. GPT and Grok, as of the recording date today, will not consume video. And it was able to do it. And so I said, okay, that's super easy. And I just started, I have a spreadsheet. John, I have a spreadsheet like a nerd does. And it lists every performance with a recording of the performance, the laughs per minute, what worked, didn't work, notes, and how many people were in the audience, how much money was made, all of that stuff.
I love that. I can't wait to see if it gets more sophisticated over time. Like as your comedy career goes on, you get more and more sophisticated metrics. Like so, like right now, it's kind of like laugh velocity. I wonder if we can like take the
Yes.
derivative of that and get like laugh acceleration.
Yes. Well, also all laughs are not equal, which is actually a harder thing. So there's some people built software for this, by the way, called like Laugh Evaluator Pro. But the duration of the laugh is important. The intensity of the laugh in relation to other laughs are important. So it can get pretty nerdy. I'm trying to keep it basic. So I use AI in the evaluation of it, but I also use it in the writing process. So for example, what I like to do is I write the joke, like I write it and practice it. And I'm like, that's a good joke. And then I put it through AI to ask for like different perspectives, how they would see that joke, different potential areas, like directions that joke could go in, maybe words near this joke that have a double meaning, things like that. And I've got a saved prompt that I use to act like a writing coach. Now, the way I figured this out, John, was I was going to a writer's group, a comedy writers group, where there would be like 8 comedians in a circle, and we'd all do like a minute of our jokes for that week, and then they would all give feedback. And so I went to like 10 of those, modeled how those professional comedians gave each other feedback, turned that into a prompt, and now I just get to do it with the Grok.
Wow, that's really cool. I like the idea of these comedians sitting around. It kind of sounds like Comedians Anonymous in a circle.
Yeah. Dude, it's a fun time though.
I'm Joel. I've been a comedian since December.
Yeah. Welcome, Joel.
Nice. Cool. So we're going to do something different to start today's show. It's something that I've been thinking about doing on the show for a while, and kind of organically, you and Josh on your team, whom I've, also electronically met a number of times through your podcast and who is wonderful. You guys came up with this idea of covering hot topics in industry news. And yeah, like I said, that's something that I've been thinking about doing. And so let's do it. Your first story here, this is actually really interesting. This really caught my attention when this news story broke yesterday at the time of recording. So several weeks ago at the time that you're listening to this. But Amazon announced that they are targeting 30,000 corporate job cuts. Joel, tell us what's funny about that.
Yeah, there we go. You putting me on the spot is what's funny about that. I think nothing. You know what I think is interesting about it, though? I believe it's one of the first times. So, I do my interviews, right? I interview corporate people all the time. They try, John, so hard not to ever say the AI isn't taking people's jobs. They use their word ninjas trying not to say it because they don't want the outlash that'll happen. My favorite part about all of this, if there is a favorite part, is that they just came out and said it. They're like, because of AI advancements, we're getting. I think that honesty is actually really great. So it's maybe the positive to the dark situation. Also, I read conflicting stuff. I don't know if you saw this too, but half the titles were 14,000 let go right now. The other half where they're announcing 30,000 layoffs. Have you gotten any clarity on, is it 30 total and they've done 14 already, or?
The only number that I saw when I looked at this briefly was the 30,000 number. And then I looked into kind of what percentage of their total organization that is. And I think it's about 10%. And this is, this doesn't include, I'm pretty sure, people who are working in Amazon facilities. Like this is Amazon corporate. I think there's about 300,000 people in Amazon corporate. These are, white collar jobs.
They said it was largely middle management and white collar type work, which makes sense. I mean, that's prime for, look, it takes zero stretch of the imagination for a corporate behemoth the size of Amazon to imagine that they've got 10% bloat. It's probably 30, probably 30%. It's not a surprise to me.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that 10% kind of cut, I think that's the kind of thing that General Electric was famous for throughout the 20th century. That it was kind of like every year the bottom 10% of people are out.
That's fine for me. Like, I'm okay with that because it's a garden. You know, you can't just let everything overgrow. You have to trim it back. And there's going to be seasons and cycles of growth and reduction. It's part of the problem. When I was an employee, like way early on in my career, I would see this, be like, how could they? That's so bad. That's morally wrong. All of this stuff.
But now that you're in the bourgeoisie,
Now that I own, well, if you own a business, you're choosing between letting the garden survive or getting rid of some of the weeds. It's like you got to get rid of some of the stuff and trim some stuff back for it to grow properly.
I appreciate that you're being so straightforward about this on air. That takes guts, Seriously.
I've been there. I've been at when you're at the point and you're looking at the P&L and you're like, either the whole company goes down next quarter or I cut 20% headcount. It makes it really easy. It's like, because you're saving 80% of the jobs. You're saving 80% of the family's ability to put food on their table. Like that, you just have to look at it like that. Otherwise you'll drive yourself mad.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like those moral puzzles that people have where it's like, you have the opportunity to, a train has lost control and you're standing at this like switch point where you can decide whether it's going to hit like 3 old people or 1 child.
Yes.
And you need to make a decision. You need to pick which group is going to die.
Yeah. And as the early on version of my employee self, I would look at it, I would see it hit the old people or the child, doesn't matter which one. And I would say, that's horrible. Like those people, like, I'm talking myself into a corner here. My brain, my subconscious finished the analogy before I could. And I was like, oops, we don't want to go there. We're having a good time, John.
Great. And so the next story is
Joel's canceled. Joel's
this is all just comedy, people. It's all just designed to shock.
Yeah.
Okay. Next story is, this was also really big news at the time of us recording today, which is that OpenAI, there's been talk about them doing this corporate restructuring for a long time. Basically, their hands were tied because they were this not-for-profit. And that was impacting how they could raise money. And I think Microsoft in particular found that this was problematic. And tell us a bit about that, Joel. What changed?
Well, so I don't know a lot about it like a comedian would. I know the headline and I know my gut reaction to it. And my gut reaction was, get him, Elon. Like, get him.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I wondered if you'd have that perspective when you said, that you were using Grok.
Oh, yeah. No, because I followed this. I have been a fan of Elon since before Elon was like when he did PayPal, like when he was that level of popular, like just the guy who had done some of that, back when he didn't have any hair and all of that.
Many of our listeners literally weren't born at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was watching him then and reading his interviews that he would do and just consuming all the stuff I could, because I had tracked personally, I had this thing where I tracked Bezos, Richard Branson, and Elon Musk. Those are 3 billionaires that I picked to track. And so I've been tracking them for like almost 20 years now. And
what are their laughs per minute like?
0. But their bank account balance makes up for it. But I did watch
dollars per minute.
Yeah, dollars per minute. I did watch the whole thing come out from when he loved OpenAI and he started OpenAI with them for this mission. And so I remember watching that be announced and watching it happen. And for me, that's like locked in my memory. So when I hear this, a lot of people who weren't highly focused on it when it organically rolled out, they're all just trying to like twist how the past looks through the present lens. And for me, I'm like, I remember exactly what that was like. And that was their entire mission. To make it's in the name, John. Open AI. It couldn't be more explicit.
In data science, the right hardware is essential for performance. This episode of Super Data Science is sponsored by Dell Technologies and Intel. Dell's latest AI PCs and workstations powered by Intel Core Ultra processors feature dedicated AI acceleration on the chip. This delivers faster inferencing, smoother multitasking, and longer battery life, even with demanding local models. Your hardware won't hold you back, whether you're prototyping in PyTorch or pushing production workloads. See how Dell AI PCs with Intel Core Ultra fit your workflow at dell.com/shoppcs. That's dell.com/SHOPPCS. Dell and Intel, designed for how data scientists really work. So this hot topics industry news segment that we're opening up with, we've done 2 stories. We're just going to have one final one here. And it's also OpenAI. It's their Atlas browser. Have you tried it, Joel?
I have not. I watched the video of someone else trying it, but I have not personally tried it. Have you?
I haven't. I got a big pop-up in ChatGPT that asked me to try it. I don't know. I really like keeping, all of the big corporations, they're always trying to do everything for you. But I actually really like having them all separate. I like having, even if it costs me a little extra to be getting different services from different providers, somehow I feel more comfortable that I'm I actually use a combination of different browsers for different purposes. So I use Firefox for some things, Chrome for some things, Safari for some things. Maybe at some point I will, think that there's a reason why I need to be using Atlas, but I like keeping things separate. I recently had an episode of this show. I can't remember who the guest was, but I was talking about how I think a problem that OpenAI potentially has is a trustworthiness thing, and I don't know if that's Sam Altman or the organization itself, but it seems like they're happy to use whatever data they can get to be training their models, and so I am resistant to the opportunity to be linking OpenAI with my Google Drive, with my Gmail, with my calendar, because it just kind of seems like I'm probably giving up the data for them to be using. And with how nuanced LLMs today can already be, forget what AI capabilities we have in the future, it seems like an unnecessary risk to me. Does that make sense? Am I kind of answering your question?
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I have the same preference with keeping the applications and everything separate. And I actually think that's almost a reflection of our biology, like our neural networks, like the way that information is stored. And it's really easy for me to have these apps where I go do these one single specific things. And the only explanation I've been able to come up with when thinking about it is it's probably just a reflection of how we store memories.
Yeah, I think that you could be onto something there, because there's definitely something that I find a bit frustrating about digital tools, period, is that it doesn't have the same kind of spatial representation. Like when you're when you're thinking about an object that you have somewhere in your home, it's quite easy to visualize where it is. Oh, it's in that chest in the living room. I know where that is. I know it's specifically under a towel in that chest. Like, it's very easy to kind of remember all those things. But when I look at, and actually, perhaps even a more direct example is, I used to always write everything on physical notebooks. But after losing one, I was like, oh my God, like I just lost all my most important stuff, and anybody out there in the world could have it. And for anybody that's ever been a client of mine that I've ever worked for, it wasn't any professional stuff.
It was all the secrets. It was
It was
API
all,
keys. Yeah, he just handwrites them.
exactly. Um, so I switched to using an iPad as my notebook,
Okay.
and that's all that I have on my iPad. But what I really miss is that with a physical notebook, even though it's a small difference in physical space, I would have a pretty good sense. Like, I could flick in the notebook to like an important page or get within a few pages of that important page very quickly, very easily. And it's also really enjoyable to, like, I have a notebook where I keep workouts, and to
Mhm.
flip back through that notebook and look back over all the workouts, it's really enjoyable. But now that all that is digital on my iPad, it is so unpleasant
I
to
know.
kind
I
of
agree.
flip back through digital pages and look back over them. Like, it's icky. I don't like doing it.
I want a dashboard. Give me a dashboard, aggregate the data. Hey, have you heard of the memory palace technique?
Yeah, I actually, as I was talking about the house thing, it kind of reminded me. So tell the audience about the memory
Yeah. So
palace.
I was struggling. I could remember my bits, like my 3 minute chunks of a story. Like that's easy for me. Remembering the order and how they flow together was the tough part. And so I started doing research on memory to see. Well, at first I spent years just saying, oh, my memory sucks, whatever. Then I said, I'm going to stop saying that and see if maybe I just don't know how to use memory properly. Let's go to the memory experts. Found the memory experts, and they have this technique called memory palace. And basically, that's where you could, like the way I'll tell you how I use it versus trying to explain exactly what it is. I use it to like the visualization in my head of walking into my house, like the front door. I associate a joke with that front door. For example, it's a joke about my beard. So I imagine that the front door is this giant fuzzy beard. So I'm walking into my house and I see this giant fuzzy beard of a front door. Then I open the front door and my wife and 3 kids are in the kitchen, which is the title of my next joke. And then I do one on the refrigerator door, and then one with my son sitting at the kitchen island, and then one with the dog in the chair, and then one. And so I have all these. The joke's not about a dog in the chair. The joke's about my wife hiring her dog to smell mold. But uh, and so I have all these things. My wife was in a movie, so I look at the TV, and so it turns out that your brain is really good at spatially remembering that and walking through these paths that you walk regularly, and so you can associate memories with them. And the more colorful the memory, like the giant fuzzy beard, or the magnet that's on the fridge, all the different things, the giant dog and the tiny chair, all of these, the craziness of it helps you remember it. And I can tell you, in fact, you can stand in front of 500 people and you can, if you lose your spot, John, you can just remember what room you're standing in and about where you're standing in your mind, and just look around that room in your mind and pick the next thing that you want to talk about.
I love it. That's so cool for your comedy routines, but our listeners can use it for anything.
Everything. Yeah.
And it's a technique I've used as well. And I'm glad that you brought it up because it's a good reminder. It would be helpful for I actually, like right now I'm have a new 10-minute keynote that I'm
There you
working
go.
on, and this will definitely help me. Although it's often with keynotes, you can often cheat because you
Dude.
often have slides to
Yeah.
and people, listeners, I don't know if I've ever said this on there before, but please don't ever put just text on your slides. Like just kind of like the story that like going through the house that Joel was just describing. Your slide can just be a picture.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It better be a good picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe like a AI generated picture.
Grok generated.
Grok
It's the
generated.
only Gen AI tool I use.
Its Imagine feature is pretty strong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't used it candidly.
You
I'll have to
haven't?
check it out. No, because I
Okay.
know it's right at the frontier on some capabilities.
Yeah.
So I really should be. All right. So this brings us to the end of our industry news section.
Yes.
Let's now leverage some of your specialized knowledge. So tell us a bit about the Modern CTO podcast first, Joel.
Yeah. So the Modern CTO podcast, we've been doing it for about 10 years, about 1,000 episodes. We're the largest CTO, like Chief Technology Officer, tech leader podcast in the world. We've had on everyone from Sir Tim Berners-Lee, creator of the World Wide Web, to astronauts when they come back from space, to the CTOs of IBM, MasterCard, you name it. And what we do is we bring them on the show to find out what unique insight they have, whether it's leadership advice or industry advice, problems they're currently experiencing. And we have them share how they're doing it. My job is to pull the best knowledge out of them, try to get that one nugget they might not want to share out there that's really valuable. And that's what we do.
Awesome. I love the show. I've been on twice, really enjoy it. The production quality that you guys have is insane. And I am hugely indebted to you, as well as Josh, your producer, because both of you have provided me and therefore listeners to this podcast to tons of guidance from business, operations, production. You both have been really generous with your time over the years. I've admired your show for a long time and we've learned a lot from it, and it's improved our show a lot. So thank you.
Oh, man. Thanks.
So what we're going to do next is based on, you've had
Mm.
hundreds of guests on the Modern CTO podcast. You named many of them there. Named many of them there. I didn't know Sir Tim Berners-Lee had been on the show. That's super cool. I'll have to check that one out. But just kind of tell us about some of the most incredible guests you've had on recently. what they talked about, kind of what you learned, maybe the nugget that you got out of them that they didn't want to tell you.
Yeah. I'll give you my top 3. How's that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Art Hugh. He's the CTO at Lenovo. He's been on the show many times over the past couple years. But this time, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, he dropped some really good advice when he was talking about that you should be getting speeding tickets, not parking tickets. And the context of that is a lot of companies will move too slow to try for a variety of reasons. And then they'll have to pay the cost of moving too slow long term. His advice is move fast and pay the cost of the speeding ticket of moving too fast. And this was specifically in the context of AI implementation. So not like large scale manufacturing or anything like that. Just implementing AI, you should be getting speeding tickets, not parking tickets. Do you agree with that? What do you think?
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. It kind of seems similar to me at the famous move fast and break things slogan that Facebook had in the early days. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I think that there's I don't necessarily ascribe to the school of breaking things necessarily deliberately. Like, there's Uber was famous for that kind of attitude, for example, really pushing things legally, for example. I don't necessarily think that that's a great idea, but certainly trying things out, getting into the arena, to use, I think it's a Roosevelt kind of saying to say that, to get into the arena and try things out and see what works is way more useful than reading more books about it, doing more planning about it. Just try things out and you will discover the path will unfold as you try things out.
Yeah, and the context is super important because we're not talking about a artificial heart that we're making, or we're not talking about a medical device that that fills you up with the IV. Like, we're not talking about moving fast and breaking things with those people. We're talking about it often in the context of a situation where the worst case is a little bit of downtime, not death, right? So move fast, break things sounds great. I love Facebook for it, but I hate it when I'm a customer of their ads manager trying to use their ads manager, and I'm like, this is not good. Number 2, Guy Kawasaki, pretty popular, legendary Apple evangelist. Yeah.
Really legendary. I think he might be Canadian as well. That's kind of I'm going to look that up.
Oh yeah, you guys have your club, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. I always, anytime a Canadian comes up, I've got to mention them.
Yeah, he was great. He was a lot of fun, and he's out there surfing with his daughter. He's like, I'm going surfing after this show. And I'm like, you're the coolest 60-year-old I know. So he was a good time, but he was funny too. He was a funny guy. Yeah. And he shared a lot of stories. He was super blunt. And he just said what he thought, which was always great. But one of the things that he really looks for when hiring or working with smart people is humor. He considers humor a sign of intelligence. And for me, I was like, maybe you should become a comedian, Guy.
Hey, Guy, why don't you become a comedian? I mean, so Canada is famous for comedians. Norm Macdonald, Mike Myers, John Candy, Jim Carrey, Catherine O'Hara, Martin Short, Eugene Levy, Seth Rogen more recently, Dan Aykroyd, tons of great Canadian comedians. But one of them is not Guy Kawasaki. He was born in Hawaii.
Yeah. He was born in Hawaii?
Yeah, I don't know why I thought he was Canadian. He's
It's like
not.
Southern Canada. The Canada of the South. Hawaii.
Just completely wrong.
Not all the jokes work. That's why like you throw away 90% of what you write. Zach Cass. He was the head of go-to-market at OpenAI. And
this is your number 3. This is
my number 3.
Your third and final recent incredible guest.
Yeah, this is contextualized to very recent. So these are all in the past couple of weeks. Zach Cass, by the way, shout out to Zach. He's a papa for the first time this week. So I got some awesome pictures on my phone of his new addition to his family. But he was the head of go-to-market for OpenAI. So he joined them and helped launch ChatGPT. Turns out, do you know ChatGPT was like an experiment to show people what the models could do? It wasn't meant to be this like massive consumer product? Because I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, they were trying. So they were selling it. They were at $2 million in revenue. They were selling this technology to different companies and, engineering firms and things like that. And it was just such a lift to, and this is my interpretation of it. You can listen to the full episode to get the actual story, but it was this big lift to explain it. And so they ended up like making this chat GPT thing so that people could just feel it and touch it and understand it. And they tuned it for conversation specifically because they were selling these models that the models could be tuned for anything, you know, calculations for quantum stuff or for architecture or whatever it may be. So they tuned it a little bit for conversation, put it out there, and it became the fastest growing products of our lifetime. And he was there when it went from $2 million to $2 billion. And now he's out there on the speaking circuit. So I'm sure you're going to run into him over there, John. And then he's also doing a like consulting type company too. But he had some great talking points. The thing I remember the most was the double standard for technology. So your listeners might appreciate this. So if we're killing each other at the rate of like 1.2 million people per year in car accidents, it's like a crazy high number. That's a large number, right? Because our population is what, 350? I think last known population.
In the US?
Yeah, 350 million.
So yeah, so that's really insane. So that's like a third of 1%, like
Yeah.
1 in 300 people every year. That's way worse than like 10% of Amazon getting cut.
And that's a callback. Thank you, John. Yeah, so that's exactly what's happening. And so we don't get up in arms about that, right? We're not super riled about that. Obviously, it sounds bad, but I will tell you this: if a Waymo got in a fender bender or even a mildly difficult or one fatality, there would be pitchforks in the streets. And it's because of this concept that we're really okay with human error. Humans are okay with human error. We are not okay with machine error. Machine error is unacceptable. Human error is acceptable. And that's fascinating because we're watching our world start to blend with things like the autonomous driving and all of that.
Are you tired of spending weeks building dashboards that your stakeholders never use? Well, suffer no more, because Fabby.ai was built to solve this. Instead of hoping your business partners will check another dashboard, Fabby lets you meet them where they already are. With Fabby, you can automate the delivery of insights directly into your stakeholders' workflows, including Slack, email, and spreadsheets. This makes a big impact. One Fabby client eliminated 30 hours per week of manual data work by automating their alerts to Slack, while another reduced self-service requests to their data team by 90%. Now that's nice. Visit Fabby.ai today to see how AI-native analytics can transform your data team's impact for free. That's Fabby.ai. I'm actually currently writing a query to a chatbot to get, I think there's actually a name of that effect. So I'm asking, what is the name of the effect that where people are intolerant of machine error but okay with humans doing the same? We'll see what comes back in real time. I'm not gonna. I don't know. Automation bias. I thought it would have like a good. It's nice.
It needs something better. Tell it. Be like, you're wrong. Your confidence score is too high. Make it better.
So we're gonna do it right here. We're gonna name it right now because this comes from, there's like a key paper from 2015 called Algorithm Aversion, and I'll put this in the show notes. The first author on that paper is named Berkeley Dietforst, which, first of all, amazing name. Berkeley is the first name, apparently, unless this is a Gen AI hallucination.
he has a beard. I feel like Berkeley Dietforst has a beard, right?
Well, I mean, I can find that out in real time. Search Google for Berkeley Dietforst. He's got like a 5 o'clock shadow kind of thing.
Okay, all right, that's not nothing.
Redhead, a lot younger than I was expecting. But so yeah, we're gonna call this thing the Dietforst effect.
Let's do it.
Yeah, from now on.
Dietforst effect. I like it. I'll pass it along to people.
Nice.
We also talked a lot about bias and LLMs. I hate that phrase. I don't like it at all. And the fact that it's not a bug and it's a feature, it's a core principle of all thinking things. Like bias is this absolutely necessary function for intelligence. Like you have to bias putting your hand on the stove versus not. Like you have to understand that. What we argue about as humans is the popularity of different biases as trending topics, like this group's preferenced over this group or something like that. That's what people are really saying when they're saying there's bias in technology. They're really saying we want our preferences for our groups enacted. And you can see that play out in the real world too, because the GPTs will treat you differently based off of different cultural norms in different countries from where you're logging into. I don't know if you know that or not, but they have them trained on the cultural norms of the places that you're accessing them from.
They do. And I don't know if you heard this as well, but as a Grok fan, maybe you can fill me in on whether this is accurate. But my understanding is that one of the ideas behind Grok was to provide a different kind of bias to the bias, which is relatively homogeneous that we get from the other frontier lab providers. And so the idea with Grok was that we could get a different perspective, maybe a more centrist or more right wing approach than what the frontier labs are generally reinforcement learning training their chatbots to be like. But some of the initial results weren't great, and so it appears that they changed the prompt for particular circumstances to align with Elon Musk's views on certain topics.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. Like it wasn't even, they didn't even try to reinforcement learning train it. It was just like added to the prompt, added to the context. Like if this comes up, this is your opinion.
That's interesting. And, I like maximally truth seeking AI. Like I was sold on that concept from him. I don't know how I feel about that. I'd have to think about that and research it more about those specific instances. I'm not saying I believe it or don't believe it. It's too early for me to tell like how I would feel about it. I haven't thought it through. But yeah, that's a lot. I like the maximally truth seeking part though.
Yeah, it's a nice idea. It's hard to know what truth is. And
wow. Well, that's why I like transparency. So
right.
That was a part of the conversation with Zach, the OpenAI guy. I was using different words. I learned from him. It's the word to use is transparency. So I am pro legislating model transparency. I think that's a good legislation point because it should be like a nutrition label where I get to see the ingredients. I get to see what you've told this thing that was trained on raw data and then you started to shape its future. I want to see what you've told it so that I at least have an option in the marketplace and I know what I'm consuming. I'm okay. Give me a woke LLM. Give me a redneck LLM, give me a gangster, give me all these different types of I would love them, but I need to choose them and use them for the different reasons that I need them. I can't have this like ambiguous, well, we've got this culture here and we're making decisions and we're doing it behind the scenes. You just use the product. It's like, I need transparency.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right. So now we're going to have to we're going to do a lightning round to kind of round things out here. Cause I know you have a lot to talk about on this. This was actually when we first started talking about you doing an episode on the show. The first topic idea is now what we're going to go over, which is the best leadership advice that you've received from guests on the Modern CTO podcast that you host over all time. So you you recently just told us about some recent incredible guests and some cool lessons that they had for us. But now we're going to stretch back over all the guests you've ever had. And I guess spend about a minute on each one.
Yeah. We don't have to hit all of them, but I've ordered them almost in the most impactful applying to my life. So these are lessons that I've learned over the 1,000 episodes. I've applied them to my life and they've still impacted me today. So it's used experience validated. The first one was Tom Marshburn. He is the first astronaut to command Elon's manned flight. So he was the first astronaut on Elon's first manned flight. Super cool guy. The guy is just next level brilliant. John, he's like a pilot and a surgeon and all of these things.
He's smart and an astronaut. That's very cool.
I know. And so he came on the show after his mission with Musk and we were talking and I said, look, you do all these crazy things. He shared this story about how they'll fly like into like a emergency bay flight situation where there's just chaos happening all around, people screaming, dismembered, like all these bad sort of things. And they're trying to piece together this situation. And he also shared the space flight and the connection between these two, like if you're doing a spacewalk. And he says, what happens is when you get into this chaos, this chaos of this stress or all these things happening around you, the answer is to keep your world really, really, really small. He's like, so when he's on that crash site, he's not thinking about the helicopter 30 yards away. He's not thinking about the police all around in the fire truck. He is focused on what is my next move? What's the next stitch? What's the next thing that I have to do to save this person's life? Or what's when he's in space, what's the next thing I'm grabbing with my hand, and how am I moving this latch, and what's the next knob that I'm twisting? He just makes his world really small. So I heard that advice maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I've put that through practice in stressful situations with my family and my kids, work, all different ways. And every time it rings true. It's my hands down my number one best piece of leadership advice I've ever received on the show.
Nice. I like that a lot. And
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of how when you see professional athletes, the best in the world at what they do, mess things up, it's because you can kind of see them in like the replays thinking about the next thing instead
Mm-hmm.
of just focusing on what's immediately in front of them. So, an outfielder in baseball going to catch a pop-up, routine pop-up, but they're already thinking about throwing the ball to first to pick off the base runner instead of just staying focused on what's immediately in front of them, catching the ball.
It's very hard to be present, to live and act in the present. And especially when you're a planner or an engineer, which a lot of the people that listen to your show are. Uh, Next best piece of advice is more in the business side of things, time management side. And it came from Kyle. When I first met Kyle, he was in the transition process of becoming the CTO of Verizon. And so I had called the CTO of Verizon. I sent him a cold email. He called me back in 5 minutes. Hans. Hans was like, hey, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world that he called me back from a cold email. He's like, hey, you don't want to interview me because it's not public knowledge. I'll tell you now, it's private. He goes, but like next week, I'm becoming the CEO of Verizon. And this new guy, Kyle, is getting promoted to CTO. He goes, so you want to talk to Kyle? Because by the time this thing airs, I won't even be the CTO. I said, thanks, Hans. So we got Kyle on, this maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago or something. And he was just brilliant. But he shared this one very specific piece of advice. And it's in relation to time management. And so what he does is every quarter, he'll have like a reoccurring event in his calendar, and he'll sit down and he'll say, make a list of everything he is doing and everything that needs to get done. Like, here's everything I'm actually doing on a daily basis. Here's everything that matters. And then he syncs those lists up, because what will inevitably happen is you end up working and spending a lot of time on things that don't actually matter to the goals right now. And so that pie chart of looking at how you're spending your time and deciding if that's the way you want to be spending your time or should be spending your time is something I have been doing now for several years. He's been on the show many times over the past couple of years, but he shared that advice when I first met him, and that's stuck with me.
I like that a lot. That's important. I have a quarterly reminder to review key habits. So every day I have a
Yeah.
habit tracking spreadsheet, and I track these key things, inputs as well as outputs. So, the kinds of things that you can change, like how many hours did I spend in bed is like a leading metric that I can track every day. And then, I could have a lagging metric of, did I wake up feeling refreshed? Something
Yeah.
like that. And there can be all kinds of things, like the number of drinks I had has a big negative impact on whether I had a refreshing sleep.
Zero,
uh,
bro.
you don't drink?
No. List of things you could do before you have kids. Drink. If you want to try to be hungover with children, they wake up at like 6 a.m. and they climb on you. There's no
Oh,
drinking with
wow.
Kids.
That's
Yeah.
cool. I didn't know that.
I did. I drank a lot in my 20s before. But it's like, I can't do this anymore.
Wait, well, even like special occasions or something?
I just don't really. No, no, no. I like gummies. I'll eat a gummy for a special occasion. Yeah, those whatever my body when I turned, so I'm 38. When I turned like 27 or whatever, just like stopped wanting to process alcohol at all. It's just like, nope, we don't want alcohol anymore. And I was like, are you sure? Because it's a lot of fun. And it's like, yeah, we don't want that anymore.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I've had, one of my roommates in college who is still one of my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
We used to drink together a lot, and the last time I saw him, I hadn't caught up with him in a couple years. And yeah, he drinks cannabis beverages
Yeah.
because he's like, I just got to a point where I realized if I have one beer, I feel terrible.
Yeah.
Um, so I just don't do it. And so just so anyway, to get us back on track, this guy, Kyle. Oh, I was going to say the thing that got us talking about this is with the habit tracking. Once a quarter, I go back and review. The idea of doing it for time is a really good idea as well. I'd like to incorporate that into kind of the
Yeah, like
quarterly
where are you
review.
spending time? Sales, delivery, like where are you spending time? Also, another one that I throw in there too with that recurring event reminder is, are you doing anything you don't like doing? Because we're founders, so inevitably we're the garbage collector. We get to do all the stuff that like nobody wants to do or that is new that we don't know if it's going to work yet. But our job is to do things, figure out how they should be done, and then hand them off. And our ability to do that is directly impacts our ability to scale. Because if we never hand anything off, we're a team of one.
Gen AI and classic machine learning are great at solving a lot of problems, but they are not built for complex decision problems. Even a slew of agents can't deal with all the possibilities when there are trillions or trillions of possibilities. Mathematical optimization, in contrast, is the perfect complement to these skills for decision making at scale. To get you going, Gurobi has hands-on online trainings made just for data scientists. The latest installment of optimization for data scientists, called Opti 301, is just around the corner. To catch up on this series, register for the upcoming training, and to check out other resources like case studies optimization, head to gurobi.com/learn. That's GUROBI.com/learn. 100%. Nicely said. And yeah, so you have mentioned how Kyle is now CEO of Verizon. I think you might not have said his full name, which is Kyle Malady, if I'm
Yeah,
pronouncing that correctly.
I think so.
Um, yeah. And yeah, so now this is potentially based on how much time we have left for you to record.
Yeah.
This might be your third and final
Yeah.
piece of leadership advice, which is kind of nice doing things in threes. So we have three topic areas:
Mm-hmm.
news, recent incredible guests, and best leadership advice you've ever gotten on the show. And in each of those three categories, we had three topics.
And while I would love to give you guys the best advice from Seth Godin or Ed McLaughlin, who is the president of MasterCard and CTO, I'm going to go with this one here at the bottom. But you can go listen to their episodes on Modern CTO. You can go listen to their episodes and the information's in there. But the third biggest impact to my personal and professional career leadership advice that I ever got, Mark Porter, CTO, DBT Labs, and drafting your emails like in Evernote when you're angry before sending them. So you don't want to do it in the draft because you might accidentally hit, the universe might be against you. You might tap that send button halfway through, which is the worst. And inevitably, anytime that you're emotionally charged, it's not, you need to wait for yourself to get back to neutral, review the writing. Often you'll be like, that sounds like a crazy person. And you won't send it. Like I have a not send rate of basically 100% of every angry email I've ever done this.
That's what I was going to say. Is that it's hard for me to imagine based on, and granted, all basically 100% of our interactions, they've been digital. Most of them, most of the time that we have had has literally been while recording podcast episodes, either your show or now mine. But it is impossible for me to imagine you angry.
I don't get angry. You can talk to my wife. I don't. I'm not a very angry person.
You might be angry after you find out that I already have been talking to your wife.
Hey, look at that. No, but yeah, there's yeah, I don't know why, man. I've always been people like earlier on in my life. Somebody told me they're like, you remind me of the guy from like the Lego movie. Like everything is awesome. And I was like, yeah, I guess because like we're alive and we could not exist, John, but we do exist.
And you mostly don't exist. There's
and we
like
mostly don't
billions
exist.
of years of emptiness in a vast empty universe. And for some reason, you're standing on a comedy stage making jokes and people are laughing.
To me, it's beautiful. And I think whatever you consider God is fine. But like when I use the label God, and I'm referencing the thing that created everything. And so whatever that ends up being is what it is. But like, I think the fact that we are here by whatever means necessary or whatever words you want to use to describe it, I just think the act of being here is the coolest thing in the world.
That's a really good, really nice point to end the episode on. And yeah, something to not lose sight of for sure. So, yes, that brings us to the end of the topics for the show. But as you know, at the end of every episode, I ask my guests for a book recommendation. Joel, what have you got for us?
Well, since we brought up God at the end, I'm going to go with the Bible. No, no.
He's
Look,
from Nashville, people, or
I'm
he's
from
in
Nashville.
Tennessee, people.
No. I would say that one of the books that helped me the most spiritually, was the book Untethered Soul. And that book, the first 3 chapters, really walks you through almost this exercise of understanding what you are. And it's like a consciousness exercise, if anything. Like if you cut off your finger, like, are you still you? It's like, well, yeah. And then it just goes through this whole situation where it kind of helps you understand internally, like what you are. And what I've come to, and the conclusion is like, I am the ability to make a choice. Like I get to choose. And there's a bunch of different options that appear to me every day in every single way. And I am just this choosing mechanism. And my choices are directly related to the quality of my overall experience here. And so what I try to do is I try to make better choices. And I think the Untethered Soul book, I don't know if it'll help you make better choices, but it will definitely help you understand how to think about who you are and yourself. And I think it's applicable to any religion. So for example, I brought this up at like a small group or our church, and they're like, well, is it a Christian author? I was like, no, but it doesn't matter because God gave us consciousness, and this author is talking about better understanding consciousness. So it doesn't need to be explicitly a Christian author. And for that regard, I believe it would be applicable to any religion.
Nice. I like that, Joel. Really nice. For a funny guy, you've had a pretty serious ending to this episode.
Oh, well.
And now we're out of time.
And yeah, most comedians, they like to end the podcast strong. I like to end it on an awkward note. So thank you for listening. JoelComedy.com, Modern CTO.
Yeah, so I'll have in the show notes your upcoming tour dates, and people can keep an eye on that. Even if you're listening to this in the distant future, there will probably just be more tour dates at even bigger venues in years to come. So JoelComedy.com. Nice.
Go on Instagram. I'm trying to do that. There's a QR code.
Yeah. So we've got, if you're watching the video version, Joel is holding up a printout of a QR code. And it leads to Mr. Joel Beasley on Instagram, which we will also have in the show notes. Any other way that people should be following you other than Modern CTO Podcast, Joel Comedy?
If you had fun, if you're like, oh, that's a funny guy, then you like my style of humor, Instagram's the best. I do a 60-second update every week on my comedy journey. I'm in week 44. And that's, if you like the technology leadership stuff, it would be Modern CTO, available everywhere you can stream podcasts. Favorite episode in the history is John Krohn's episode. So go listen to John on our show. Had a great time. And thank you guys for listening.
My first episode or my second?
I like all your episodes, to be honest with you.
They're equal. Yeah. Equally your 2 favorites ever.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow, what are the odds?
Yeah. That's why they made the list too for today.
If you're like, well, the lists were all about best advice, and you're like, any advice that he had in those episodes, don't take them, but we had a good laugh.
No, this is great.
Nice. Yeah, had a really great time, Joel. Hope to have you on the show again soon. Thank you so much for taking the time, and best of luck.
Awesome.
Now that was a fun one. In today's episode, Joel covered his systematic approach to comedy using AI, including recording every performance, analyzing laughs per minute through Gemini, and maintaining a detailed spreadsheet tracking what works. He provided the top advice he's ever received on his Modern CTO podcast, including astronaut Tom Marshburn suggesting you keep your world small to come out of stressful moments on top. And he talked about the case for AI model transparency as a form of a nutrition label, allowing users to understand what biases and instructions have been built into different models so they can make informed choices about which tools to use. As always, you can get all the show notes, including the transcript for this episode, the video recording, any materials mentioned on the show, the URLs for Joel's tour dates and social media profiles, as well as my own, at superdatascience.com/945. Thanks to everyone on the Super Data Science Podcast team, our podcast manager, Sonia Brevich, media editor, Mario Pombo, our partnerships manager, Natalie Jaisky, researcher, Serge Massis, writer, Dr. Zara Karche, and our founder, Kirill Eremenko. Thanks to all of them for producing another excellent episode for us today, for enabling that super team to create this free podcast for you. We are deeply grateful to our sponsors. You can support this show by checking out our sponsors' links, which you can find in the show notes. And if you want to sponsor an episode yourself, you can go to johnkrohn.com/podcast to learn more. Otherwise, share this episode with folks who would like to have it shared with them, who would like a good laugh about AI. Review the show on your favorite podcasting app or whatever, wherever you view episodes, listen to episodes. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, but most importantly, just keep on tuning in. I'm so grateful to have you listening, and I hope I can continue to make episodes you love for years and years to come. Till next time, keep on rocking it out there, and I'm looking forward to enjoying another round of the Super Data Science Podcast with you very soon.